I was testing the throughput of the cableway in the game Workers and Resources in the version 0.8.5.19. Here's the result. The test setup will be shown later. Maximum throughput I achieved was 43.5 tons. In order to achieve this, you need to use a heavy cable weight with the maximum number of cars available. That was 60 out of 60. For the 3.5 tons per workday, that is very low. That is only a fraction of what a mine can output, so if throughput is a concern, you should look into other means of transport, like for example an aggregate conveyor belt. If you are cost conscious and this is more than enough for you, you might consider a light cableway. So even though a light cableway achieves only a half of that, roughly, it costs about half as much. Anyway, in order to achieve the maximum throughput, what matters seems to be the cargo capacity of the whole system, which is achieved by the heavy cable cars, which can carry more, and using the maximum amount of cars available. Even though the station appears to be already saturated, it is better to put more cars on it. So here I have a test setup with a heavy cableway which had only 40 cars out of 60 available. There was 10 cars at the station at any given time, but the throughput was lower. Even though, like, you would think that this is bottlenecked by the loading times, but it still helped to put more cable cars on it. The power to weight ratio of the system doesn't matter. I have compared this light cableway, which had 60 out of 60 cars on it. It moved 25 tons per workday. And this was a light cableway which was about half as long, so it had about half as cars on it. That was the maximum available amount, 28 out of 28. So the weight of the system was also half as much, but the engine power, which is shown in the game, is the same. So that's like, in this case, that's twice as better power to weight ratio than this one, which is longer. But the throughput was roughly, give or take, roughly same. So the power to weight ratio doesn't matter. So here, let's show the test setup. This is the test setup. Oh, this is a video. So on the top there's the short light cableway. Under that, this is the heavy cableway, full length, with 40 cars out of 63. And this was already running. There is 6 cabins at the station at any given time, roughly. Under that, there's the light cableway with 40 cars. And there's a heavy cableway with 60 cars and a light cableway with 60 cars. They are loading from aggregate storages. These are large aggregate storages on the right. Empty at the moment. And they will unload on the left. This is the shorter one, which proves that the power to weight ratio of the system doesn't matter. And I'll just manually purchase a full load into all of these while paused, so that they all start at the same time. And they will have to move but there's like 2,000 tons of coal to the other side. I just looked at how much they moved. The timer will start when I unpause this. That is when all of these cableways will start moving cargo, and the timer will stop when the first one of these manages to empty one of these large aggregate storages. And throughout the test you will see that during all of this I'll build another large aggregate storage which will be moved by a conveyor belt, and you can see that the conveyor belt is much faster, because even though I'm going to build it much later than all of these, they're already moving the cargo, and I will build the conveyor belt throughout the test, and it will manage to move the whole 2,000 tons of coal before any of these finishes. So the cableways are not very fast. If you need to move tons of cargo, a lot of tons, then this is not the way to go. I suspect this is because of the conversion of the in-game workday to real time, because these are physical models which have to move the cargo basically in real time. These are moving at a reasonable speed that would be reasonable for real time speed. But the workday is, I don't know how long it takes. Is it a minute? So while these cars are moving at, I don't know, 10, 20 kilometers an hour, because of the conversion to workday, it's much slower. So these cable cars are able to move a realistic amount of cargo per real time, but this is all completely relative to the in-game time. It is really low, because the in-game time is like one workday is a minute or so. But all the buildings in the game, like the mines, they are converted to the in-game workdays. So the mine, it shows you, I don't know how much, is it 4 tons per worker per day? And even if you have, it's basically converted what a mine would be able to output in a real workday. But here it takes only a minute. That's the in-game workday. So all the buildings are producing at a much faster pace if you convert them to real time, but that's why these cable cars cannot keep up with any of it. And that is actually why any of the transportation is like, well, it can keep up. Trains and trucks can keep up just fine, but you need many more of them for what you need in real time. If you say a factory produces 20 tons of goods per workday. In the game it takes a minute, so it's 20 tons a minute. You need a truck every minute. In the real world, you would need one truck every day, every 24 hours. So that's, I suspect that's why these cable cars seem so shit. Anyway, I'll just let the test run, and that's it from me.